Alex Collins was a college football superstar at one point at Arkansas, and he had a super promising career going for him with the Baltimore Ravens. But he got into some trouble and was out of the NFL, at least that's what we thought. He is making a comeback currently, but for the most part, he threw his career away at one point. So today, we're going to talk about the rise and fall of Alex Collins and what almost got him kicked out of the league. But first, if you love football, especially college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as this is definitely the channel for you. I make videos about college football, so if you want to support the channel, give the video a like, share it with your friends, comment your thoughts, suggest a future video topic, and stay until the end. Now let's get started and talk about what happened to Alex Collins. Alex Collins was born August 26, 1994 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He was extremely blessed in the genetic department, as he was an ultra-talented athlete who played basketball, lacrosse, and ran track. Surprisingly, Collins did not start playing football until he was a junior though, but the nation quickly picked up on his abilities. After becoming a letterman in every single sport he played, he was named the County Player of the Year after rushing for 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns while missing 3 of those games due to an injury. Collins was a hot commodity on the recruiting market, as he boasted offers from schools such as Florida, Florida State, Wisconsin, Miami, and Arkansas. He actually originally committed to Miami, but he later decided it was best to reopen his recruitment, and Arkansas looked like the favorite because of their new head coach, Bret Bielema. The highly decorated Wisconsin coach chose to leave Wisconsin for the SEC and became the new head coach at Arkansas. Because of a system that favored running backs, Collins was very interested in going there, and he wanted to be a Razorback, but his family wanted him close to home. Despite their concerns, Alex rarely discussed his intentions with them, and it led to a huge conflict on signing day. After committing to Arkansas, his mother actually ran off with his letter of intent and would not allow him to sign it. Ultimately, Coach Bielema faxed Collins' father a copy of the letter of intent, and Alex was officially a Razorback. According to 24/7 Sports, he was the number 40 overall player in his class, the number 5 running back, and the 10th best player in the state of Florida. Collins would come into the year as a backup behind sophomore Jonathan Williams, but his impact would be seen immediately. In 2013, Brandon Allen was the quarterback, and the Razorbacks started out 3-0 with wins over bad teams. Along the way, he became the first true freshman in SEC history to rush for over 300 yards in their first 3 games. Despite their 3-0 start, Arkansas was in for a tough year, as they would lose their next game to Rutgers, and this was the beginning of a 9-game losing streak. Arkansas finished 3-9 on the year, and they didn't look competitive in most of their games. Despite the poor results, Collins had a fantastic freshman season, as he rushed for 1,026 yards and 4 touchdowns, while being named the Freshman of the Year in the SEC. Pressure was going to heat up a little more in year 2 under Bielema, and expectations rose, as Brandon Allen and Jonathan Williams and Alex Collins all returned, so they had a really talented offensive attack. They began the season with an SEC matchup against number 6 Auburn, where they'd get killed and their losing streak would become the longest in school history with 10. After beating Nicholls State, they would go on the road and get their first big win of the Bielema era at Texas Tech, and after a cupcake game, they played 3 straight matchups versus top 10 teams. They first lost to A&M, then number 7 Alabama, then Georgia, and then they beat UAB before losing to number 1 Mississippi State. To this point, Collins' teams were 0-11 versus ranked teams, but their luck would soon change. They first shut out number 20 LSU 17-0, and then followed it up by shutting out number 8 Ole Miss 30-0. They became the first team in college football history to shut out back-to-back ranked teams, and they are now 6-5, and they would have a chance to do it a 3rd consecutive time, as they had a road game against number 17 Missouri. Arkansas was leading 14-6 going into the 4th quarter, but Matty Mock would rally the troops, and they'd win the game after Alex Collins fumbled the ball away and Missouri recovered, and they clinched the SEC East for the 2nd straight year. As a Mizzou fan, that Arkansas win was one of my favorite games ever, and they'd finish the year at 6-6, and they would beat Texas in the Texas Bowl to finish at 7-6. Behind all SEC running back Jonathan Williams, Collins still managed to rush for 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns and become one of the best backs in the SEC and in the country. Expectations were super high in year 3, and they began the season ranked number 18 because of that. Jonathan Williams would go down with a foot injury before the season even started, and now he was going to have his window to be the feature back. They beat UTEP, but then lost their next game at home to Toledo, and this infuriated a lot of people. Then they lost back-to-back games to Texas Tech and A&M. They beat Tennessee, but after a loss to Alabama, it just didn't look like it was going to be a good season. Immediately, they changed the narrative once again, after they beat Auburn in 4 overtimes, and just like the previous year, they went on to beat back-to-back ranked teams, and it was LSU and Ole Miss once again. The Ole Miss game was an instant classic, as the Rebels blocked a game-winning field goal attempt, and then in overtime, Arkansas was faced with a 4th and 26. In a miracle sequence, Brandon Allen completed a pass to Hunter Henry before he threw it behind his head. The ball took a lucky bounce, and it landed in Alex Collins' hands. And from there, he rushed for the first down. A few plays later, Arkansas scored, and they decided to go for 2. Allen was sacked, but they were bailed out with a face mask call, and the next play, he took a sneak up the middle for 2 points and the win. Their luck ran out against Mississippi State, but they did beat Missouri to finish with a 7-5 regular season record. They went to the Liberty Bowl against Kansas State, where they finished with an 8-5 record, and they officially saved their season. Collins rushed for 1,577 yards and a school record 20 touchdowns during his junior year. He was named to the All-SEC second team and was the MVP of the Liberty Bowl. Alex finished his career second in all-time yards behind Darren McFadden, fourth in single-season yards, and fourth in all-time touchdowns. After his junior year, he was obviously an NFL prospect, so he forgone his senior year and headed to the league. Alex Collins joined a running back class that included Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Paul Perkins, Devontae Booker, and Kenneth Dixon. The class was considered weak outside of Elliott and Henry, so some sites thought Collins could be the third best back in the class. By the end of the draft process, he was projected to be their 2nd through 4th round pick, but he would slide on draft night as he was taken in the 5th round with the 171st overall pick by the Seahawks. Collins joined a crowded backfield in Seattle that included Thomas Rawls, Chris Steinmichael, and CJ Prosise, so time on the field was honestly going to be a little bit limited. He made his NFL debut in Week 2, where he had 2 carries for no yards. He finally scored his first career touchdown against the Falcons in a close win, and he finished his rookie year with 125 yards and a touchdown. After being waived in his 2nd year by the Seahawks, the Baltimore Ravens decided to take a gamble and sign him to the practice squad. Danny Woodhead would go down, and Collins was promoted to the active roster, and after a solid debut, Collins would make his first NFL start against the Pittsburgh Steelers. In his 3rd start, he had his first 100-plus yard game, and he was the lead back for the Baltimore Ravens for the remainder of the year. He rushed for 973 yards and 6 touchdowns, and he was becoming a young NFL star. Collins started out 2018 really strong, as he rushed for 516 yards and 8 touchdowns before a foot injury would end his year in October. Trouble would begin in the offseason as he was taking a friend home one winter day before his car would slip on the road and he crashed. Once the police showed up, they found marijuana and a handgun in his car, and this got him in some trouble. He was arrested for the marijuana and possession of a handgun, and Baltimore immediately released him. He was expected to be picked back up for 2019, but he broke his leg and would remain a free agent. Late last year, the NFL had suspended Collins for 3 games, but he was signed by the Seahawks practice squad and he returned to the Ravens, where he scored a touchdown against the Rams. He's seemingly doing alright, and I hope his football career gets back on track. Most importantly, that he learns from his mistakes and hopefully gets his life to a good place for good, because we all want everybody to do well and be happy, especially these athletes whose life is under an extreme microscope, and every decision and mistake they make put on the record with them for life. I really liked Alex Collins at Arkansas, and it was really cool seeing him do well at the Ravens, but it is sad to see that a mistake almost cost him his NFL career, but he is seemingly making a comeback, so I hope the best for him, and I know I'll be supporting Alex Collins. If you love college football and want to support the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that like button so my video gets recommended and more people can see it. Let me know who I should do next, and let me know your thoughts on today's video. Check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video about what happened to former quarterback Matty Mock, and all the rest of my what happened to college football videos. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.